Hello, my beautiful, wonderful sister witches. I've been missing you all like crazy. I'm one day away from flying out to Japan, and this will be the last video I'm putting out before our travels back to the United States. My husband surprised me with some last minute pictures taken here in Kuala Lumpur, just, for our memories to keep up on our wall. Jack was having a really bad day. He was just not happy about it, but we still got the greatest pictures. So I'm glad for that. And my daughter Aubrey was there too. You might ask why I don't show her very much. My husband and I agreed we would show our kids online and on social media until the age of 8. And then after that, it would be up to them when they wanted to have pictures put up. So I do show Jack, but not as much my older daughter. Anyway, you guys know I'm having all the feelings, every last one of them. Excitement, sadness, tears, all kinds of stuff. And I'm loaded up with medications that I can use to try to control my emotions going up and down. Because my whole thing is I need to keep it together. This is what I do every time. I've got to keep it together for myself and for everyone around me until after we complete the move and get to our next location, get the kids settled in. And then I will have my own mental breakdown. But until then, I have to keep going. I have to keep positive. I have to be strong for everyone. And that's what works best for me. It's not just that I'm making myself. It's I really don't do well if I let it all out before I get the work done. I need to get the work done and then let it all out. Oh my gosh, so many of you have messaged me and it helps so much. When you message and you tell me you've been through some of the same things, or you grew up moving around like this, or you're going through it right now, it really helps me to hear that. I just want to let you know I haven't messaged everyone back because nothing is working. Nothing is working. I have a bunch of broken computers, a new iPad I don't understand how to use, all of my desktop, microphone, everything that I use for filming, that's all been sent away in the packing. So I'm on a struggle bus when it comes to even making videos or just accessing Facebook, getting back to people. It's just a little bit more complicated right now because I also, it doesn't even matter. There's just a lot going on. But I love you guys. Really, really love you. Okay. So in the meantime, on the side before bed, when it's just a moment where I can have a little peace to myself, in the bathroom, I've been continuing to go down my many rabbit holes, and I cannot believe how far everything goes, how far back. You can find all kinds of details, interviews, AMAs, all that kind of stuff about the Duggars, the sister wives. There's just so much out there that even though I've explored and I've researched, I'm still finding new stuff. And I was really shocked to go down yet another rabbit hole on the Facebook page of Pickles. You guys know I was talking about Pickles before. She's the one who gave out the information about the crew member who she said she spoke to from 19 Kids and Counting. And it turns out that a very long time ago in 2018, Pickles did another interview that she put all over her Facebook. And it was with a church member, a verified church member from the Duggars' own home church. This was all the way back in 2018, people. And allegedly, she might have been speaking to them before that, before she ever did the interview. It's very interesting to me because I've been hearing all of these gossip sites, even myself and other YouTubers talking about all this crap about the Duggars and their home church, but I never saw the primary source information about it. Where did they get this info from? Some people say I have my own personal source that I'm talking to. But once I saw Pickles' personal interview with this person, I realized that it was this interview that has been used, that has been talked about, that has been picked apart and reviewed many times, but without actually looking at the very specific questions and answers that were asked. The church member even goes as far as to talk about Jana's failed courtship, which I know very little about. So I was super interested in going down the rabbit hole on this interview. I even messaged Pickles and said, wow, I didn't know you were looking into all of this and putting this information out as early as 2018. There may have been people before her who were doing it. I don't know. So much to learn. But I'm going to go ahead tonight and put out this video all about this early interview with a church member who attended the Duggars' home church. Okay, here we go down the rabbit hole. Okay, so here's how everything appears to go down. It's August of 2018, and Pickles releases this information that she's speaking to a church insider, someone who went to like the home church of the Duggar family, has been around the Duggars like long term when they were a child, and has left the IBLP and wants to speak out about what goes on behind the scenes. Okay, so she ends up calling this person Sam. It's obviously like a made up name. And she releases like this initial post basically telling everyone, I'm talking to Sam. Here's what this person has to say about Jana, which is quite interesting. And there's a lot more to come, like submit some questions for me. And I'm going to try to do like an Ask Me Anything with this person and release it later. The initial post reads, I have been getting some information on the Duggars and their early home church activities from the early 2000s. This information comes from a church insider who has left the cult, as I'm sure many have over time. A lot of the information I have I can't release until I consult a lawyer. If anyone knows a good lawyer, give me advice. What I can say now is that Jana was promised to a boy, but it was broken off by the time Jana turned 18. I've heard this before, but I only knew it as a rumor. The boy broke it off probably because he just wasn't ready to settle down. Both sets of parents were disappointed that the arranged marriage didn't work out. Also, many know about Josh getting his head shaved at 17 as punishment for his continued sins. It was done at the Duggars' home church by church elders, including Jim Bob. Josh resisted the punishment, and they told him that if he didn't go through with it, they would also shave the head of the girl, not his sister, the one that he abused. The church apparently partly blamed her for being abused. Now, since then, I've heard some different things since this has come out. I've heard from other sources that Josh allowed his head to be shaved like fairly willingly, and that it wasn't done in front of the church. It was done in private, like in a back room, but the church did talk about it. And it has been confirmed by Kaylee Holt that she felt like she was blamed for a lot of issues with Josh. She almost felt ostracized by people at the church after everything went down between her and Josh. Okay, so we've heard a lot of this before, right? And that specific post I have seen in the past, but I had never seen the actual AMA, and it is full of information that I really hadn't heard directly from a primary source before. So then later, presumably after Pickles consults a lawyer in October of 2018, she puts out these posts with an AMA from Sam. It goes like this. Here are the answers to the questions you asked Sam. Sam is a Duggar insider who grew up attending the Duggars' home church. She has since escaped the false beliefs of this damaging and dangerous Christian cult. Why do you believe Jana hasn't married off yet? When will her time come? I think she hasn't been married because she hasn't wanted to yet. To a degree, I think some of the kids have autonomy and choices as far as their spouses are concerned. More so the boys than the girls, but still. Jana's always been super needed at home, and I think she might prioritize that over marriage. Can you imagine the family without her? So, I mean, now we know that there are a lot of people who are in the IBLP who didn't give their children as much choice as the Duggars have had. Many people have still said that the marriages are arranged, but overall people have said that the Duggar girls are given a choice of whether or not they want to go forward with these courtships. Next question. Let's talk about Amy and her mom, Deanna. Did Amy use the Duggar name? When did her folks get married? Are they still together? So this is asking all about Deanna because at that time, people weren't really sure if Deanna and Amy were part of the church. Over time, and I'll probably put out a video about this, people, like a lot of fans have really grown to dislike Amy. Snarkers are all over disliking Amy. And I kind of went down a rabbit hole about why this is true as well. So it's something I'll make a video on in the future. So this question in 2018 is just checking in on whether or not Amy was involved. And the response was just basically that Amy wasn't around a whole lot that I remember in the years I was attending the church. She did go by Duggar, but I knew even less of her mom. They were Christian, but they don't follow the same brand as the Duggars, less conservative and all that. Okay, next question. Was all the strife between the Holts and the Duggars about Josh? Did those in the church take sides? How much did the Duggars keep in contact with former church members? And lastly, were a lot of other members believers in Gothard as well? Answer. I think it was partly about Josh, partly because Jim Holt and Jim Bob had a power struggle. The church did take sides and families chose leaders. The Holts started having separate services at their home. The Duggars kept in semi-contact. And I think despite the rift, they still attempted to maintain some kind of friendship, but it was never the same. Almost all, if not all, of the other church members were pretty much staunch Gothardites, following his material and teachings and attending Gothard seminars, reading books by him and his people. Question. Did you see any personality changes back then since the girls learned what happened to them? And do they fully understand what happened, or is it sugar-coated? Answer. I was young at the time and didn't fully understand what was going on until later. Couldn't make sense of what I saw and heard at the time. I think it was heavily sugar-coated for sure, but the girls knew what was happening was at least violating. I remember seeing them sobbing for seemingly no reason, being upset around Josh, etc. And we've heard this around the time of the trial, that there was a lot of information which came out from a podcast that I absolutely love called I Pray You'll Put This Journal Away. And it spoke extensively about watching the Duggar girls be members of the audience at church while Josh was maybe called to the front and his quote-unquote sins were talked about in front of everyone, including the sisters, and that there were tears and it seemed very uncomfortable for them. Question. How much parenting did Michelle do during that time? Did you ever see her break her voice tone from her soft, sweet stuff she shows on the camera? Were the boys ever expected to do things around the house? Answer. Let me put it this way. Children in that church took care of the other children, even if they weren't in the same family. If there was a baby who needed to eat and didn't have a spare sibling, someone else's female child was expected to step in and help out, changing diapers, feeding, general babysitting, the works. I never saw her, that's Michelle, break her tone. That was the way she talked all of the time. The boys had general chores, just like the girls, not that they ever got done. The bathrooms and kitchen and living areas were always disgusting. So this is a rumor that I've heard from another AMA on Duggar Reddit Snark, that in the initial phases, when the Duggar family lived in their very small house before being able to move into the big house, people who attended the church did say, like, because there were so many children in such a small place, it was not like clean and inviting and super well taken care of. I mean, I can't really blame, anyone for that. There were a lot of people living in that small house. Question. I would like to know why no one has a job. Answer. Self-employment was extremely encouraged, even expected. I'm not sure why. College educations, particularly for women, weren't a good idea. My parents absolutely forbade it. So professional lines of work were sort of out of bounds. Plus, there's all the temptations that come with the secular world. Question. When someone like yourself leaves the cult for good, is he or she allowed to visit their family? Answer. Depends on the family and who wants to be sympathetic and why they left and what sort of lifestyle the ex-cult member lives now. Oftentimes, they're considered a bad influence on the rest of the kids, so contact is limited or removed. I have no contact with anyone from my upbringing because I feel safer, but I highly doubt they would welcome me back. Question. Was Josh molested? And he repeated the acts. Answer. I think it's possible, but more likely he was probably exposed to pornography at a really young age by someone. Okay, I'm going to break in here, and I know you guys have heard this from me in the past, but with my background working in a facility that cared for child S offenders, children who have offended against other children. Oftentimes it is their siblings. I can vouch for the fact that research has shown that it's something insane, like 85 to 90 something % of children who offend have been offended against first. Usually children do not come up with this kind of behavior without having it demonstrated to them. But one of the other scenarios I saw quite frequently was a scenario in which a young child had been repeatedly and inappropriately exposed to pornography. So even if there wasn't inappropriate contact, physical contact with an adult or another kid, watching the pornography had led them to act out similar scenarios on people around them. And I've always thought that might have been what we were seeing with Josh Duggar. We know that now he deals with a hideous pornography addiction, and it's possible that that's the root cause with a lot of his deviant behaviors. Okay, getting back to her answer. I can think of a few people who could fall into a suspect category of abusers when Josh was young. So I think that this person is saying that it's been known that there were people in the home church who later were found to have been abusers. Question: were the girls forced to forgive Josh and still spend time with him? Answer: I think they genuinely thought they were forgiving him and didn't recognize and also weren't shown the gravity of the situation. He was their brother and they loved him. I think they lived in a lot of unexplained fear growing up, like most of us did. Question: please describe how a confession comes out. Answer: there were multiple meetings where they sent the children out of the house so they could discuss this situation with Josh. I think that's likely where the confessing happened. I was a child and therefore I wasn't privy to those discussions, but I overheard my parents and some of the other adults talking about it. Later, Josh was humiliated in front of the church. The adults already knew what he did, so they didn't really rehash the specifics. He cried. Several other people cried. His victims cried. And then there was a climactic moment when he was told he was going to have his head shaved, or they would shave one of his victims. Wow. Then he was told he was going to be sent away to work. It was horrible and scary, and I hate thinking about it. Josh did terrible things, but at that moment, he looked very broken. Question: if girls were caught breaking rules, what was their punishment like? Answer: to be perfectly honest, I don't really remember the Duggar girls ever breaking rules. I'm sure they did at some point, but they were angelic as far as behavior. I could speak for other members of the church, including my own family, but I don't want to disclose that information at this time. Question: were the daughters seen as damaged after the molestation scandal, and did this impact their marriage chances within IBLP circles? Answer: no one ever talked about it, and the girls weren't treated any different after it broke. Question: were the older girls ever abusive to their younger siblings? Answer: Jessa was mean. I never liked Jessa and wanted to steer clear of her. She scared me, and I honestly have to say Jessa scares me now. I never really liked her on the show, and I'm sure she's like a fine person. I'm not saying I dislike her now, but I think she just has this very authoritative, almost controlling way about her. But that's just from watching her on TV. Getting back to what Sam has to say. She scared me, and most of her younger siblings were scared of her. Jana could also be a bit stern and quick to punish, but then again, all of them were supposed to be mothers to a whole host of children. That's a huge burden to place on any adolescent or teenager. And I totally agree with that, especially with Jessa. I always felt like she just had a lot of like teenage angst, and she was taking it out on these younger kids around her because she was expected to raise them. Question: how did Sam get away from that lifestyle? Answer: by walking away and disappearing as best as I could. It's still a struggle to recover from the abuse and spiritual mistreatment, and most days I wake up in disbelief that it ever happened. Question: to what extent are children betrothed promise to one another? Answer. It's extremely common in those circles. Typically, the father of a boy talks to the father of the girl and they work out an arrangement. A lot of times the boy does initiate some interest and discusses it with his dad first, but the girl rarely has a say and is pressured to accept her father's choices. Question. I'm wondering how the family was doing financially during those years. Now, this is really interesting to me, and it's been spoken about a little bit, but this is, straight from the horse's mouth. Answer. They were poor until they built their big house, and it's come out that TLC helped them pay to finish building the big house. And Sam says, then suddenly it changed. They could afford toilet paper now. Apparently they couldn't in the past. But yeah, every Sunday when they held church, every family brought all the food they could so everyone could eat together. Then leftovers were distributed. We all shopped at Goodwill and Aldi and pinched pennies. The poverty was real until the TV money started coming in, and then suddenly they were showing off a pantry like a grocery store to the rest of us and offering everyone extra food to take home that was donated by sponsored companies before it spoiled because there was so much of it. Question. Can you describe what the home church services were like? Answer. We sang songs from hymnals they kept in kitchen cabinets. So many hymnals that were accompanied by Jana playing the piano. Classic hymns, never anything contemporary. Requests were shouted out by kids and adults alike. Sometimes there was a music special, but always there was one song in particular that all of the children would sing every Sunday morning. Then we had prayer time where requests were shared, and that was followed by watching a video seminar. I don't remember ever taking communion. I feel like that was frowned upon, but I can't recall. But the service will be followed by a communal meal they called fellowship. Question. Are you aware of any abuse of the boys in the church? Answer. I am, but not of the Duggar boys. It existed. Question. I have heard that Jana ran away a couple of times and that she was rebellious. Answer. Absolutely not. Jana was and still seems to be one, if not the most loyal people of the bunch. Question. Did things get weird? People speaking in tongues, people with blankets to catch holy rollers as they fell backwards? Answer. Anything related to the gift of tongues, prophecy, or non-Baptist tradition was considered heretical. What got weird was punishing children in the middle of a service, women being constantly pregnant, husbands humiliating their wives and the kids, and myself and other young people being preyed upon by elders. Question. It has been suggested at times that the oldest daughter belongs to the father. Is that true in the IBLP? Answer. All of the daughters belong to the father. If you're referring to Jana specifically, I wouldn't say it's just her. All of the daughters in the family and others were subject to their dad's decisions. It was common to make vows to father as teens to stay pure and obey him always, similar to wedding vows, sometimes with a purity ring. I don't think the Duggars quite did that tradition, but my family and many others did. My father gave his daughters a ring after a proposal where he asked them to remain virgins until he gave them away, usually around the age of 13. Creepy stuff. Question. Was Anna's family really made aware of Josh's past? Answer. Yes. And no, it didn't matter. He'd been forgiven by God and his family, so of course he wouldn't sin again, especially if he had himself a wife to play with instead of children. Wow. Question. How old was Jana when her parents made that arrangement when it was canceled? Answer. I think it was around 2008. Question. What does Sam think of the Jana-Laura rumors? Answer. Pretty ridiculous to me. Jana and Laura aren't having a secret fling, in my opinion. LGBT plus members did come out of that church, including myself, but that would be far too obvious for them to carry it on. Question. Why doesn't Jana just leave? Answer. I don't think she wants to. I think she's semi-happy there, at least, to the extent of her knowledge of happiness. It's her world. Leaving, coming from someone who did it, is absolutely terrifying. Question. Are any of them secret atheists? Answer. The church was so fear-based about the afterlife being determined by present choices that I found myself as a child, asking Jesus to save me every single Sunday. I still have a hard time even being an agnostic because of what was beaten into me. So I doubt it. It's hard to believe when the stakes are set so high. Question: did Josh's abuse of his sisters continue when they moved into the big house? Answer: I think it mostly became a porn issue at that point, but it's possible. I think it was still an issue even then. Question: have you ever seen an example of an unwed woman getting pregnant? Answer: no, but my parents suspected one of the members in my family of getting pregnant quite irrationally, and hell broke loose at the suspicion. It likely wouldn't have gone over well and probably would have ended with that person being turned away, much like Anna's sister. Question: what was John David like? Answer: he was shy, awkward, friendly enough, strange kid, likable by everyone, obedient, humble, hardworking. I think he's a good person, if a little misguided by his upbringing. Question: are you pursuing a formal structured education or trade? Will you raise your children differently than you were raised? Are you still a member of the same fellowship? Answer: I'm not pursuing further education at this time, though I have plans to. I'm supporting myself in a successful career and doing pretty well independently. I will raise my children very differently, without religion as a factor. I am not in the same area and have no plans to return to Christianity, at least staunchly or in that branch. It is toxic and abusive. It is vile to me. Question: how are the kids with the protruding stomachs now? Answer: I looked them up the other day. I think their family moved away, and it seems like their kids aren't as involved in the cult anymore. They seem to be doing well, and I'm happy for them. Question: did Sam, the girl that's talking, ever go to Alert Academy or one of the family conferences? Answer: no, I didn't. My family didn't travel much. Question: were you able to have genuine friendships with the Duggar children in that environment, or was there a lot of isolation and privacy? Answer: I did have genuine friendships with the Duggar children. I even developed feelings for one of them as a young teenager, and I thought they were reciprocated, and may have been. We weren't allowed to discuss it. We didn't discuss the abuse because we didn't consider anything abusive. We looked up to our parents and feared them. Question: did Sam ever meet someone from the cult who cooked without using cans? Answer: no, we were raised on cans. And speaking of cooking, Jim Bob's barbecue tuna, or whatever that nasty stuff is absolutely disgusting. I've tried it. Hash brown casserole is gross too. It's all gross. Ugh, I love eating real food now. Okay, that was the end of this Ask Me Anything on Pickles page. You can always run over there on Facebook and check it out for yourself. She said that she's going to start reposting some of these old interviews that she did so we can all take a look at them. I have so much to say about all of this. Some of it we've heard. Other things are a little bit new to me. But this video has gotten pretty long, and I've got some stuff to do before we head out on our flight. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll be back to posting, I guess, in a couple of weeks. Say a little prayer for my kids if you can, and I hope to see you all again when we head down another rabbit hole together.